We've got a really weird story coming out of Nintendo today. One that's honestly raised more questions than answers, and it's all centered around these new Switch game keycards. Yeah, you heard that right. Not game cartridges, but something entirely new. And Nintendo just issued a warning about them that, well, let's just say it has the internet talking. So let's break this down, because it's not just about magnets and memory chips. This could actually say a lot about where Nintendo, and maybe even the rest of the gaming industry, is headed when it comes to physical media, ownership, and digital rights. First off, let's explain what these things are, because a lot of people might not have even realized Nintendo was doing this. These new game key cards are physical items that you buy in stores, just like traditional Switch game cartridges. You get the box, the plastic card, the cover art, all of it. But here's the twist. The card doesn't actually contain the game. Instead, it acts more like a license key. You insert it into your Switch, and it essentially tells the console, hey, this user owns this game, go ahead and download it from the server. It's like buying a digital code, but with a plastic shell to make it feel physical. And for some, that already feels a little off. Because if you're going to buy physical, especially in 2025 when digital is dominating, you kind of expect the entire game to be on the cartridge. That's the appeal. Instant access, no downloads, true ownership. But with these key cards, you're not getting that. You're getting the illusion of a physical product that still relies 100% on online infrastructure. No internet, no game. Servers go down, you're out of luck. And that's already a bit of a tough pill to swallow for collectors and preservationists. But here's where it gets really strange. Over in Japan, folks started spotting a bizarre warning on the back of some of these new key card cases, specifically on a version of Bravely Default from Square Enix. The warning was picked up by Nintendo Soup and translated roughly as, "The game keycard could become unusable if you stick a strong magnet onto it. Please be careful." Wait, what? This immediately stood out because, and this is key, that warning doesn't exist on any regular Nintendo Switch game cartridge. Not on the original Switch carts, not on limited editions, not even on older DS or 3DS games. So that raises the obvious question, why would this warning exist now? What's so different about the internals of a game key card that it could be affected by something as simple as a magnet? Now, this has led to a ton of speculation, especially among tech-savvy fans. See, typical Switch cartridges use NAND flash memory. It's solid-state, robust, and completely immune to magnetic interference. You can wave a magnet near your regular game cart all day and nothing's gonna happen. So if these new key cards can be affected by magnets, that suggests they're using a very different, and probably cheaper form of data storage. There's a good chance the card isn't even using proper flash memory at all. After all, if it only needs to store a license key or some form of minimal validation data, Nintendo may have opted for a much simpler chip. Some folks have floated the idea of MRAM, magnetoresistive RAM or MRAM, which can be susceptible to magnetic fields depending on how it's designed. Others think it could be a super low-cost EEPROM or similar chip that doesn't have the same durability as the hardware used in traditional cartridges. But here's the real kicker. This could mean Nintendo is using bare minimum hardware just to cut costs and still claim they're offering physical versions of games, when in reality, they're just selling you a glorified access token. Now, before you start freaking out and tossing every magnet in your house into the trash, let's add a little perspective. Nintendo isn't saying that any magnet will destroy your keycard. You're not going to fry it with your Switch's built-in magnets, or the ones in Joy-Cons, or even something like a fridge magnet. They're probably referring to strong industrial magnets, the kind you might use in a workshop, or those rare earth magnets that can magnetize screwdrivers. You'd have to intentionally place the card near one of those and leave it there for a bit to cause actual damage. Still, the fact that this is even possible? That's kind of unsettling. We've never had to worry about this with other Nintendo hardware. So even if the odds of this happening are low, it paints a picture of just how fragile and disposable these key cards really are. And that's where this story starts to connect to something a lot bigger. This whole situation really highlights where the industry seems to be headed, away from real, lasting ownership and toward temporary, license-based access. Even Nintendo, who was once seen as a holdout for physical media, is starting to inch away from it, and this move feels like a halfway step. These keycards look like physical media, but they function like digital licenses. You can put them on a shelf, but they don't work unless Nintendo says so. And now, apparently, you have to make sure they don't get too close to a magnet, or they might become completely useless. It's honestly kind of ironic. These are physical objects that are more fragile than digital purchases in some ways. At least with a digital copy, your access is tied to your account. But if your keycard gets corrupted, that's it. You're done. Even if you still have the receipt, it's unclear how Nintendo would handle that. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I'm going to grab one of these game keycards myself when they launch, and we're going to open it up right here on the channel. We'll look at the internals, see what kind of chip it's using, and try to figure out if Nintendo really is cutting corners on storage tech. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about magnets, it's about transparency. It's about what we're really buying when we walk into a store and pick up a box off the shelf. And if Nintendo is going to start selling fake physical products that can stop working from something as dumb as a magnet, then we, as players, need to know exactly what we're dealing with. So what do you think? Are people blowing this out of proportion? Or is this just one more step toward a future where buying a game doesn't mean owning it at all? Have you seen one of these key cards in person yet? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And hey, if you're curious to see what's actually inside these things, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the teardown video when it drops. We've got a lot more Nintendo Switch 2 content coming soon. And trust me, things are just getting started. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.